Hey everyone, it's Christmas! Oh, sorry. Okay. Yes, it's Christmas. And what do I think of when I think of Christmas? I think of Tron. Wait, Tron? No, I don't think of Tron. I think of this.
Happy trails, Hans.
So beautiful. Anyway, yes, I got back from the cinema 2 days ago to see the latest sequel, Tron Legacy, a film which has had so much hype that I almost couldn't wait to see it. Now, if you haven't seen the film yet and are going to, I suggest you turn off this video if you haven't within the first 5 seconds, because it's just going to be spoilers all the way when I tell you the plot, how good it is, how bad it is, and what it's just like in general. Now, I've never really been a big fan of the Tron franchise, mainly because it isn't a franchise. It was just one film that came out in the early 80s, well before my time. And I've only seen the film once, and that was 11 years ago. And I remember it being 11 years ago because I first saw Tron on December 31st, 1999 on BBC Two around 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I had no idea what the hell I was looking at, but I thought it was pretty cool as a kid. You know, all those neon lights and action sequences, but still, I couldn't really follow the story, and I actually don't know the story from the first film. But luckily, the sequel, Tron Legacy, actually is quite easygoing for audiences who are new to the whole Tron fable. The film is set 28 years after the events of the first movie. Jeff Bridges, the main character from the first film, who's pretty much also the main character in this one, has disappeared off the face of the planet, and 28 years later, his son stumbles into the mad world of Tron. And by the world of Tron, I technically mean the grid. Sorry, my terminology is going to be awful for any die-hard Tron fans who watch this shit I do. So anyway, Jeff Bridges' son, Sam, stumbles into the world of the grid, meets the main antagonist, who is Clue, sorry, spoiler, I know, and then joins up with his father and basically destroys Clue and his evil force who want to invade Earth. So essentially, the plot is very basic and, in some ways, very Star Wars. After watching this film, I kind of expected a bit more, so I guess if I could sum up this film, again, it would have to be missed opportunity. I mean, you've had 28 years to work on a script and develop a sequel, but did Tron really need a sequel? I can't really remember the ending of the first film, but I knew it ended happily and everything concluded quite successfully. So was a sequel entirely necessary? If it was, okay then, but if it wasn't, why did they have to go in the approach that they did for this film? But I'll get into more of that later. Now, if you're a fan of the Tron franchise, or the first film, and you wanted to see the sequel and couldn't wait, I think you might be slightly disappointed, but where action scenes are, the film does deliver very well. You've got everything that you saw in the first film, the light cycles, the game arena, the disc thing, it's all there. So if you were just wanting to see the film with more of that in, then Tron Legacy should suit you fine. However, if you were expecting the sequel to be more philosophical about man and machine and how far technology has come and how far technology will try to grow, then this isn't really for you. You should probably just watch The Matrix again. Now, some people have been saying really bad things about this film, like really, really bad things, like worst movie ever made, but I don't think that's the case. I think Tron Legacy is one of the most averagely decent movies I've seen in a while. It is so borderline okay, it's almost in Avatar territory, but I think it's a lot better than Avatar. The film on the whole is enjoyable as long as you leave your brain by the door. I'm not saying the script is terrible, it's just so typical Hollywood Disney that it doesn't take any risks, and I think that's what pissed me off. The film doesn't take any risks at all with its script. You have the hero, love interest, the villain, fight, hero wins. Sure, it's a generic story that we've seen a million times over, and I wasn't expecting anything different from Tron Legacy. They have the whole world of the grid to play with, and they didn't really use it to its full potential, which is a bit disappointing. But don't get me wrong, as acting goes, Jeff Bridges is of course great in anything he does, even in bad movies. Not that this is a really bad film, but it's not one of his best. But Jeff Bridges is very, very good, and it must be difficult trying to reprise a role 28 years after playing that character. And the guy that plays his son, I don't know his name, is also fairly decent, but again is that typical blonde-haired Disney hero which is always going to win no matter what happens. I guess that's one of the faults of the film. There's no real sense of drama or tension because you feel like the heroes are going to survive no matter what. And really that is the case. None of the main characters get scarred or injured or nearly die in any of the scenes. And I know that one of the biggest criticisms of this film is the amount of plot holes and errors that are in the script, and I can sympathise with that. There are a fair few. I think the main whole error is the main villain, Clue's whole motivation. That needs an entirely different rewrite because there's so many errors and holes in his own character that it's actually present on the screen, and it's very irritating when you're trying to enjoy the story. But, like I said, if you leave your brain at the door, I think you'll find this to be a completely normal, average Hollywood, entertaining film. And that's essentially what it was. I don't think Disney wanted to take any risks because they wanted the film to make as much money as possible. I'm not sure how much money it's making, but I'm sure it'll surpass its $175 million budget. Now, this is where I start nitpicking and bitching like I've always done. I've always been against this whole 3D presence in new films. People have been saying it's the future of cinema. I disagree. In the 80s, when the older style of 3D was first around, it lasted for a few years, and critics called it the future of cinema. But then it petered out. It was a fad. I'm not certain this new 3D technology is a fad. I think it'll always be here in animated films or kids' films, but I do think it will peter out because 3D films just cost so much more to make. And the 3D in Tron, just like the 3D in Resident Evil and the 3D in Avatar, is good. It's good 3D. However, it is just unnecessary. Christopher Nolan once complained about 3D, saying how 3D films are much darker, something about the levels of light that the eye can see, and that 3D films are 5 times darker than normal movies, and with Tron that is absolutely the case. If you haven't seen either film, the grid is a very dark world, only lit up with neon lighting, and in 3D it's too dark, just like The Last Airbender, the very first vlog I ever did. My main complaint in that was the film was too damn dark. I actually found myself taking the 3D glasses off for the majority of Tron Legacy because it was just brighter and actually easier going to watch. And I enjoyed some of the 3D scenes more with the glasses off because I could see the action more and appreciate it more. I would have liked to have seen this film in 2D, and I bet you I would have enjoyed it more than I did in 3D. If it weren't for all the cool neon lighting in the entire film, then the film would practically be pitch black. And also, before the start of the movie, a little disclaimer came out saying that the majority of the film was shot in 2D. So, what's the point? 3D costs too much, it makes the film too dark, and it is more irritating watching a 2D scene having to wear the glasses, which is why I took them off halfway through.